Daniel Kariuki, KTN News.
Well, the African Union has called on Kenya and Somalia to dialogue as the row between the two neighboring nations rages on. The call by the AU came only a day after 9 people were killed in fighting between the Somali National Forces and regional Jubilant fighters, with Somalia claiming that Kenyan weapons were used in the attack. The ongoing arrest does not only pose a danger to Kenya's peace and stability, it also has potential economic ramifications. And with Somalia being a key market for Kenya's miraa and a key trade gateway into Ethiopia. Meanwhile, within Kenya's borders, dozens of schools in northeastern Kenya and Kapedo remain closed due to the security situation in those areas. The closure of schools has left hundreds of learners at home. To talk more about the insecurity concerns, let's now speak to Byron Adera, an ex and pioneer Kenya Special Forces officer, a security expert and consultant, and also a group spokesman for the Association of Corporate and Industrial Security Management Professionals in Kenya. Byron, quite a profile there. Many thanks for joining us here on News Desk. Let's begin with the Kenya-Somali relations. The AU now calling for the two countries to engage in dialogue. It is not the first time, however, that Somalia is accusing Kenya of meddling in its internal affairs. What does this latest development do to the peace and security of the region?
No, as has been said very clearly by the CS right there, and of course the British official during launch of Nyati up north, which is a training institution that prepares our local forces. It's very important and critical that the two countries do engage in diplomacy, one, and two, to walk the journey together in terms of finding lasting solutions as regards peace and stability in the region. Kenya has fairly much been a big brother as regards to the way the insecurities in Somalia therein in the territory of Somalia have been, dealt with by Kenya. Kenya has had to send troops, and the gross product of the involvement of Kenya has seen quite a bit of pacification of swaths of land inside Somalia. I mean, and Kenya has not gone out there to do business and come out, single-handed or empty-handed, as they say. The product of the same has been that Kenya has enjoyed relative peace and security with regards to arresting almost the runaway instability exposed by the threat of terrorism. So these are the kind of gains that we stand to walk back on if this kind of more or less, for lack of a better word, a pity party by Somalia with regards to their internal challenges and trying to drag in more or less the international community and the regional blocs into what would actually just be their internal affairs, which they could pretty much fix by appreciating the kind of efforts that have been put in place by the troop contributing countries in terms of the war against terrorism, Al-Shabaab, and enjoy that relative peace to bring order and a sense of governance inside Somalia.
Right, and of course, the war against terror is one of the biggest casualties in this diplomatic spat. Al-Shabaab essentially thrives in chaos, with the chaos between these two countries and just a few days away from Somalia's presidential elections. What security concerns geopolitically are we looking at?
I mean, with that level of destabilization, and against that backdrop, you remember the Americans did withdraw a bit of their military support, both equipment-wise, monetary support, and of course in terms of soldiers. I'm happy that the current government of the US may actually address that kind of imbalance. And the whole idea about controlling terrorism in the region will pay dividends to controlling terrorism elsewhere, globally. This is a global threat. But most importantly, with a hindsight on the elections that are taking place, and of course which Jubaland and of course Puntland have had to turn their backs on, is leaving the Farmajo government with a bit of eggs on their faces. So these are the things that need to be put in order. They have to have a look at clearly and realistically why this destabilization is happening now, especially against the backdrop of the forthcoming general elections. But beyond that, we may see a lot of space and room for maneuver by the bad guys, both Al-Shabaab and any other teams that may take advantage of this kind of conflict to solidify gains and to regroup and to, of course, sponsor some ill-intentioned spectaculars that are going to be very injurious to the general well-being, humanitarian-wise, because we realize a lot in terms of people who've been displaced have had to put a lot of pressure on Kenyan shoulders with regards to the refugees that have had to have a lot of immigration into the country. But beyond that, the human element and the human factor behind this is in terms of loss of lives and potential loss of lives and livelihoods. If we have a lot of incursions that would happen with regards to the creation of these mobility spaces or room for maneuver by the ill-intentioned individuals.
All right, and of course, this fighting at the border is spilling over to the Kenyan side as much as Kenya has distanced itself from the chaos there. Let's talk about the situation in northeastern Kenya, places like Mandera and Kapedo as well. There has been a flurry of factors that have been pointed at as contributing to the violence and insecurity in that area. Not a single solution really to the problem there. Learners are at home. How do we begin combating the amount of insecurity in northeastern Kenya?
Northeastern Kenya and to a large extent, of course, that one including Kapedo, have had to have some very interesting history. One, you can talk about these regions as sharing in the same plight as being called the marginalized kind of spaces within the country. And fairly much this you can put right on the shoulders of the governments that went by since time immemorial. I mean, since the country got independence. So there's been some systemic challenges. There's been some socio-cultural challenges, and there's, to an extent, border issues that are going to be taken care of. But most importantly, and studies have been done, if we look at what Johan did put, up with this structural violence theory in 1969, then you start to understand how the societal pressures, the societal organizations, and the way they're instituted may contribute to people getting into violence, especially when there's blockages to them getting to their conventional aspirations or basic needs in life. Interestingly, Robert Merton, 1938-1957, did talk about the anomie strain theory. And the whole sum total of contributors to deviant behavior may have a light shown at some of these things that we're talking about. With regards to if a society is denied almost systemically arrival at their aspirations through legitimate behavior, then you understand that legitimate behavior can get conceptualized as an innovative or smart ways to get to those aspirations. And that's what we can, be looking at with regards to the challenges that we have in the marginalized areas. And then the responses thereof with regards to the way we tweak strategies to reset these imbalances may not engender success at the end of the day.
All right.
For instance, if you dropped foot on the ground, or soldiers on the ground, and you just went into the mechanical business of killing or meeting justice to the guys that you brand as, say, bandits or criminals, which is practically what could be happening with some of these guys. There's got to be a heavy input into the way we address ourselves to the root causes of these matters, with a view to coming out with long-term solutions, not just band-aids, but long-term solutions that may provide some ease and comfort on the general populace that are found in these areas.
All right, many thanks. That is Byron Adera, security analyst. He is an ex and pioneer Kenya Special Forces officer, speaking to us about the insecurity in the northeastern region as well as Kenya-Somalia relations. In other news, Vibes Radio, a product of this standard